Welcome to the series on flows. In today's session, we'll be looking into Screenflow, and which is the session one on this. So before jumping into actual implementation of Screenflow, let us recap about what is the Screenflow. Screenflow is one of the type of flows that Salesforce provide, which requires user interaction as it includes various screens, local actions, choices, or dynamic actions or dynamic choices. So how a screen flow can be invoked? So before understanding that, let us also see a screen flow is used for mainly two things. One is to collect the data. Like suppose I want to raise a case. So I need a form to raise a case because I need to submit some data to the system. So in that scenario, I can use a screen flow. And in other scenario, I just want to see my recent orders, a list of orders. So I want to show some data to the users. So in both the scenarios, the screen flow can be used. And how it can be invoked? So there are various places from which screen flow can be invoked. One is the Lightning record pages, the normal pages where we see in from the home tab, we can invoke, or from the record pages, we can invoke. We can also use a screen flow in the experience builder pages and a Lightning web component or Aura components. It can also be invoked. It can also be invoked from custom buttons and actions and links of the objects, and also from something called flow orchestration. So before going further, let's see what is the screen element and what we can do with that. So to show you before understanding it, let's go to Salesforce. So when I create any new screen, so I have a screen element, interaction element that we have spoke earlier. So when I click on this, there are various things that are having here. Like since it's a screen, we need various elements onto the screen, right? So what are the different components that you can use? So we can use all the input fields. So out of the box, we can choose from the list of input fields, like we can get date time fields, we can get text fields, we can get lookup fields. So various input components that can be used. Also, there are a few more new additions, like we can use toggle, we can use slider, and we can use file uploader. So like this, there are various input components that we can use. And one more new addition is the data table component. We can also use data table. Like when I drag this data table, I can create a data table with the number of columns and the rows. So that is also possible. And component visibility is one more thing on the screen element we can do. What does that means is like, I want to show a particular input field, like I'm just typing some email field. And I want to show this email field based on some condition. So set the component visibility. That is called component visibility, which is possible on the screen flows. This kind of behavior we see in dynamic forms on a page layout, on a page, Lightning pages. So similar kind of a behavior of hiding and showing a particular element based on some condition is possible using component visibility, and that is also being provided for the screens. You can also use record fields, also known as dynamic forms. So one more addition to the screen flows is we can use, suppose I want to use the fields that are part of an account object, then I can use that here, and I can use all the fields which are related to the account object onto the screen flow. And the way it helps is when you use the record fields, automatically the attributes related to the record fields will be uh, given to the screen. Like all the attributes related to that field is also invoked. And any change on the attributes, like attribute, I mean like if there is a text field in its size is 255 characters, it's required field. So all these kinds of attributes for that particular field are also invoked on the screen. And whenever there is a change at the attribute level in the object manager, automatically that also gets updated. So Flow takes care of that. Next. Now let us start with an example one in this particular session, I'll be going through one example, and in later sessions, I'll be going into the more scenarios of screen flows, which we'll be working on. So the simple scenario is we'll be creating a screen flow that will enable customer to reorder previous restaurant orders. Like I have already ordered some restaurant from the restaurant and I want to do the pre-order. Again, the reorder the uh, same order. Then I want to build such kind of a flow. So what are the different elements that I'll be using in this example is I'll be using a data table. I'll be using the lookup field, which is an input field. I'll be using the record fields, which I told as a dynamic form, right? That we will be using, and then I'll be using normal text fields like email and phone field, and a display text, which is very useful. And other element which I'll be using in this particular example is collection sort. In record trigger flows, we didn't use this collection sort, but here we'll be using it because I have list of 5 or 10 orders in my account based on my account, and I want to show only the top five. So I'll be using collection sort for that. So let's see. Before seeing the example, let's see the demo. I'm just opening it from the debug log. So debug mode of the flow, how it looks. So the step one, the screen one is I want to search the customer. So from the contact record, I'm taking the lookup on the contact and I'm seeing the list of contacts. So I want to select a contact which is part of the contacts already. So let me select the first one. So when I click on the next, if at all, this particular customer has already ordered, then I'll be showing the list of orders. If the customer is have not ordered anything, then I'll tell, sorry, you have to use a other screen, which will be used to create a new order instead of the existing orders. Now, if you see here, I have an order method where delivery type and the best method of contact. So now the component visibility comes into picture. So when I select email, automatically email field is being populated. When I'm selecting phone, the email is closed. The email field is not nowhere visible now. Then I have an order date. And now from here, from the recent cupcake orders, I just want to select this one. Like now I'll be getting these values. Like this is the order I want to do. Now when I click on submit, automatically order will be created and it will show me the details, which I'll be showing from the home page. So these are the list of orders. I'll go to the home page where I have added the screen flow here. I'm selecting the same customer and delivery type, email. And I can also change for this particular order. I want to give my other email. I can do that. And I want to select this one. And the order is for Tuesday. And click on submit. So once I click on submit, you see confirmation order. Fifth record has been created. Customer name, delivery, order date, email has been updated. There's a phone number. Order summary is 2 pizzas, 1 Coke. And I can also view the order by clicking on this link. So it goes to that straightforward to that particular order details. So this is what we are going to see, how to create this kind of a flow using a screen flow. So let's start. So normally, when I click on a new, click on start from scratch. Now I have to select screen flow. Till earlier sessions, we used record trigger flow, but now we have to use screen flow. Click on create. Now you'll be getting this kind of a screen where you don't have anything. Now you need to add some interaction. Since it's a screen flow, now you'll see screen, but in record trigger flows, you'll not see the screen as one of the interaction element. And rest of the elements are same, like what we have in the record trigger flows. So I'm going through this, which is already been created. I don't want to spend time on creating each element. Yeah, let's see. So on the step one. So the first step is when a new form comes, let me show you. So when a new form comes, there is a header. In uh, the header always will be the name of the flow. Suppose I'm creating a flow name as flow order or order a particular restaurant order, then automatically the label, the header will become the the flow name. Okay, this is the screen property. So this particular screen called new screen, what is the label you want to give? Like I can give me the contact screen as a label. Then you can configure the headers. Like you can show the header, or you don't want to show the header, you can just remove the header. And you can also give some help text. Next, you can configure the footer. Now there are three buttons here: pause, previous, and finish. So if you want to use next or finish button, use a standard label or a custom label. It's like in the finish, I want to say like next instead of using the finish button. That's the word. And I can also hide. I can do that. Similarly, I can hide previous buttons or use a custom label. Similarly, for the pause, the same thing happens for the pause. Now you see, there's only one button because I should not provide the previous button because this is a screen one. What is the use of providing a previous button? So I don't want to provide that. So this way we'll be creating the initial step. Like the first step one is to create the name of a screen. We give a name to that screen and configure the headers and footers for that. Once that is ready, then you need to start, right? So in our scenario, we have to drag one lookup field. Okay, let me show you that. So I'm just giving this contact screen, and just I'm just hiding these two. Okay, now here types lookup and just drag the lookup here. So once you have dragged the lookup, you have to give some API name. So contact lookup. So these API names are useful when we want to refer this particular uh, component in our logic. So always make sure that you give a proper API name and you'll be using it. A field API name. So field API name is, suppose I want to get a lookup field from the case object, because on case I have something called contact ID. So that API name I need to give. Okay. If suppose there is a custom object on which you have created a lookup for the contact, and you can use in that way also. Like suppose that custom field is like a custom contact ID. That's the name. Then you have to give that API name here. Then label, you can give any label which will be shown on the screen, like customer. So once I see the name is one changed, then the object name on from which you want to use this, like I am using from the case object. And there are other things like you want to disable it, maximum selections, record ID. So there are different other variables that you can use, and the component visibility, validity, input. Like you want to uh, use validation rules, then you can use this. And advanced is like you want to store this particular field into some other value. Like you want to store this value into some other variable, then you can use this. And these two also gives you, like, suppose there are multiple screens and you are in the middle of one of the screen called fifth screen. When you're going back and coming front, like you're going to the previous screen and again coming back, whether you want to retain the value or you don't want to retain the value when you're clicking on previous button and coming to the next screen. So then we have these options will be useful. But for now, we are not using it because this is a screen one. So now if you see here, I've used the same thing. Uh, so step one is completed. Now, once I've selected, like once I have selected, okay, thank you. Once I've selected a particular contact, I want to store that contact information, right? So for that, what we have to do is, so now I have the screen element. Now this screen element API name is this. So any data that is being populated into this particular field, particular element is been captured in this API name. Now, I want to get the contact details based on the selection that we have did in the lookup. So that is a normal get record. So on the get record, I'll be using the customer lookup. So customer lookup is the API name. So customer lookup ID equals customer lookup. Customer lookup will be pointing it to the record of the contact. In that, the ID field I'll be looking up, right? So I'm just matching with that, and I'm getting the record, the first record which is matching, because it'll be only one record which will be matching. So yeah, and I'm storing that information. Once I have that, now Cupcake is one of the custom object that we have created, and it has various fields, like it has best method, like whatever we saw on the screen here, order method, best method of contact, phone, email, order ID, order date, description, order summary, order name. All of these are the different fields that we have, and we have one more field called contact. So this contact will tell you for whom you're ordering this particular delivery, right? So that information is stored on this custom object. So now, based on the customer ID, like contact ID that I have received in my previous step, I just want to retrieve all the orders, previous orders. So get all the previous orders. So get cupcake orders is the object name, whose contact field equals contact from the get existing ID. So from here, I'll be getting the ID, like I'll be getting the entire contact record. From there, I'll be getting the ID. So that is what we are getting get all the. So now the next element here is something called collection sort. So what is this collection sort is, suppose you have a collection. Collection here is a list of records, right? So already in this, we have something called list of cupcake orders. This is the, I'm getting 3 or 4 list of records. Once I get that, I just want to sort that, because I want to sort based on the order date, and I don't want more than 5 records. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm using the collection sort. Okay. For your information, like in the new spring release, we are also getting an option for the get element with something called limit. Like now you see only the first or all records, but now you can also mention how many records you want to retrieve. That's a new addition that is been coming in spring 25. As of now, since we don't have that release, we don't see that option. Then it'll be more useful. Like instead of getting all the records, I just want to get few records. So that's the new addition that is coming into the get records of a flow. So now, yeah, sorting. I have just sorted it out. Now, what we are doing is, if suppose, and this particular total logic is only for the orders, for the contact who has at least one order. Think like I'm selecting this particular customer, and when I click on next, it will show you have no recent orders, submit a new cupcake order. So I need to use something different screen to do that. But in this particular flow, I'm just concentrating on the customers who are already did a order with me, so that I can get their recent orders, and based on that, I'll be booking a new order. For that reason, I'm just checking if this particular get cupcake has records or not, whether this list is empty or not empty. That is what I'm going to check here. Yes or no. If it's not, is null, false, then yeah, we have some records. If not null, we don't have records. So this is what till now we have seen. Now, if there is a no condition, means I'm creating a new screen, and I'm just, so there's one element called display text, where you can just display whatever the text you want. All you do is here, this is the resource area where you can just type test this display text. So you want to display any information, you have to use something, input element called display text. So that is what I have used here. You have no recent orders, submit a new cupcake order. I'm just closing it. And here, I'm just going back to the screen one. So that is what I'm doing here. Like I'm connecting it. So you can connect. So if you want to connect, like suppose, if you want to connect to some other element on the top, you have to use something called connect to element connector. Okay. Then this kind of information that will come when you click on this, automatically it'll go to the place where the actual connection is there. So now let's see on the left side where we have records. Now we need to create a different screen. Okay. The screen which contains all this information. The first thing is order method. So now in this particular screen, there are elements. One element is record table, data table. So let's start with data table. So data table, I'm just giving some API name and the label. Use the label as a data table title. So that is what recent cupcake orders. Source collection. So this is the source, like the collection of elements that we got from the previous screen, get elements. And if you want to configure, if you want to show the search bar, you can use the search bar. You want to configure rows. So row selection mode. So what is the use of this is like I'm displaying the order, and based on my selection, I want to retrieve that information and I want to do some other business logic based on that. Then you can use view multiple, single, or view only is just I just want to show information and user is not allowed to do anything on that particular table. Then I can use view only. And requires user to make a selection. Yes, that is what I'm going to do. So here I'm going to select. So you are making some selection. So that is, you're making sure that user selects some record. Next, configuring the columns, what all different columns you want. So if you want to add a new column, just click on add column and see these are the fields that are coming directly from the object. So if you want to add any field, something like owner ID, and when you add it, you just have to click on done, then only it will get added. So now owner ID has been added. So I'm just removing this. So this is what. And next, similarly, component visibility. I just want to show this data table every time, or because whenever a user has one record, automatically this this screen will be shown. So I'm not going to put any new, and there is nothing else. So as we saw earlier. So this is about the data table. Now let's see the next things. Let's first talk with the actual normal inputs. One input is email field, where I'm just dragged one email component, email input component. I'm just dragging it and I'm just giving the details, placeholder, required, if it's required, really required or not, value. But now the point here is set component visibility. This component visibility is based on the above method. This best method of contact is a pick list. If the value is email, then show this. If values is phone, then don't show this. So that is what we have seen here. If best method is equals to email, then only you'll be showing this. Otherwise, you'll not be showing. This is how you do the component visibility. That's all. Similarly, the phone field is also a normal text field, a normal input field, part of the screen elements. So this also has a component visibility where equals phone. Okay. Next, order date is also in normal. It's not normal. Yeah, it's a it's a field. This is a field, but these are just a normal fields. Okay. Now let's start with this. So before doing this, what we need to do is, since I want to use fields of this particular object directly, what I need to do is first I need to create a new resource variable record. And here I have to use cupcake order. And this is a record field. Text code. And click on done. So you see here, cupcake order is what I'm using. I can also use now this. So when on the screen now, if I want to use those fields, I need to go to another tab called fields here. First of all, I need to input that record field. So record field is test record. So once I get test record, automatically we see like all the fields related to that object comes here. Now I can drag here, like I can directly drag contact, which is a lookup field, the field. So similarly, all these fields comes into picture. So in that same way, what I did for this is I've used var cupcake order variable, which holds the record type of cupcake order object. Now I have all these fields which I have just dragged it. Order method, best, and order date. These are the three fields that I've used. So this is the way that we have designed our screen. So once the screen designing is done, now we need to capture those information and need to create a record for that. So to do that, I'm using the record element. I'm just setting the record field values manually. Object is cupcake order, starting with best method, best method of contact. So now the thing is, it you will not get directly. Suppose if you are using the fields from the object, you have to use this record variable called var cupcake order dot order method, something like that. But for email field, the API name is directly email. So that is what you have to use. And it's a screen, right? So on the screen, new cupcake. Now let's see here. And the contact is the one which we have selected earlier from the get customer. We have queried the contact details. So the contact ID comes from there. And email comes from, as I said, yeah, this is what we need to understand here. Now, I want to get the email value. So email value is on the screen called new cupcake screen, this screen. In that, I have field called email. Email is the component name. In this, there are various attributes for that particular component. I need the value. So this is how you capture the value. Similarly, for order days is part of the record. So I'm using var cupcake order variable dot order date. And similarly, phone, which is part of the screen, I'm using that field on the screen. Once everything is done and once the record gets created, I want to store the ID of the record. In that scenario, we can use this checkbox called manually assign variables. And then you want to store that in particular field. So you need to create a new resource. The new resource is this var cupcake ID. It's a string field. It's a text field which stores the ID. So that is what we did here. So once that is done, now I can query that information using the ID that I have stored here so that I'll be getting the details of the particular record, new record that got created. Once that is being done, I'm showing that information as an order summary in the next screen. So now if you see the next screen, this is a display text which I showed earlier. So I can use display text and I can also insert the values but for a particular record based on the resource. So the resource here is, I just want to get the cupcake order. This is the cupcake order and dot the name, method, contact, order date, order email, phone, order summary. And then the last step, you see something called hyperlink. So how this has been done is, if you want to go to that particular record, you can use this. This is the hyperlink that we are using. So when we use something like this, suppose, and I click on hyperlink, it gives you what is a URL. You just have to give the URL by slash and the ID of that particular record. So automatically that points to the particular record. That way, we are creating the link for the particular cupcake order record. And you see here, the footer name is being changed. As I said, we can configure the footers. And instead of next, which is a standard, or finish, we are using a custom variable called custom value called thank you. And in the previous screen also, we have used something like submit order. So that way we can change. And one more thing is, normally when we drag elements on the screen, we get in one page, like in one particular one, only one column. Like here now we have two sections. So to do that, we can also use sections. think like I'll just show you quickly by creating a new screen. I can use sections. So now full width you want, or you want 6 by 6, 3 4 by 4, three screen, three sections or two sections. So that way you can use section is one of the uh, component that we can use. So here I've used the component two sections. That's the reason you see here. Configure that. So that's how we we use a screen flow to we have used the screen flow to show various information, like we are capturing the data from the user, and we are submitting an order into a record, and we are also navigating to that particular order once it's been created. And here, as we said, we have used multiple components like data table, lookup, record fields, email, phone, display. There are many other components, like we can use record choices, pick list values, multi-select pick list, dynamic radio buttons. All this, like we'll be seeing in the next few sessions on screen flows. So the next steps is more scenarios on screen flows will be coming in the next sessions. So stay tuned on this. Thank you.